Call the March 2nd Willmar City Council meeting to order. Roll call. Kevin?
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Christensen.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Amon. Nelson.
Here.
Plowman.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Dockin.
Here.
Fagerly.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions or deletions to the proposed agenda? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move to consent items.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent items. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Scheduled hearing. Consider the 2015 street and other improvements report.
Mayor Calvin, members of the council, try to make this as brief as I can, although keeping in mind I am an engineer, so trying not to explain myself too much is quite difficult, so I will endeavor to do the best I can. This is, of course, March 2nd. This is a 2015 per state statute street improvement public hearing. I'm going to try to follow through on both of them, so bear with me. As you can see up there, the statement here is position of the City of Willmar to seek input of all interested citizens and affected members of the public in the city's decision-making process for this for these projects coming up this year. The purpose of this hearing is to review and explain the proposed improvements and the estimated cost, and to obtain input from interested parties. If I start reading something different, will somebody tell me so I can make
We'll let you know.
Okay, good.
You're doing good so far.
Okay, great. As happened so far, the hearing was by Mr. Mayor Calvin, and I'm going to do my best to explain and review the proposed improvements and estimated costs, and then we'll accept, or the mayor will accept public comments, and then we can close the hearing after that. There's 3 types of projects that I'm going to do my best to explain during this process: reconstruction, overlay, and then miscellaneous projects. The reconstruct course is pretty self-explanatory. We've got just under half a mile of proposed streets to be reconstructed, and we've got almost 3 miles of overlays that I'm proposing. And then the miscellaneous projects include sanitary sewer lining projects, storm pond improvements, and bike path improvements. These are the project areas. It's kind of hard to see up on the screen, but as this improvement hearing will be public record, I've got this map available to anybody that would like to see this map, and I assume it's also on the website. They're color-coded, broken down into parking lots, street reconstruction, street overlays, and then bike path overlays. And then the really hard color to see, the cyan or the light blue color, is sanitary sewer and water main improvements. So that's our sewer and water projects. And then the darker maroon or red would be the storm pond improvements. Under reconstruction project, the basics are remove the bituminous, remove the black, the asphalt, remove and replace curb and gutter as needed in the broken areas. Utilities as needed, which is where the other utilities come into play, the MUC for water and electric, storm sewer improvements. We then grade the street to the design grade, and for the proper runoff, we have gravel base, tile and tile services if necessary, and then we follow that up with paving and turf establishment after that for the final project. Our reconstruction, these are 1501A, which doesn't necessarily mean anything to anyone in the public. It's more of an internal number for us. The These reconstruction projects have a typical cross-section or base section of 10 inches of gravel, 4 inches of bituminous base, a geotextile as needed, tile and towel services, as I mentioned before, and remove and replace curb and gutter. First project on the list is Carolina Avenue. This is from 13th. It's actually Carolina in its entirety, 13th Street to 11th Street. And as you can see from the picture taken last fall, that is in pretty rough shape. It does look a little different from that now because some of the trees have been removed in anticipation of this project. I think I have some notes on that here. I don't. Another reconstruction project is 21st Street Southwest. This street is goes from basically 23rd Avenue to 19th Avenue. And then this is the city alley between City Hall and one of the city alleys, I should say, between City Hall and the auditorium. There's some drainage issues here, as well as the pavement is breaking up and it's heaving, and there's some pretty good rutting going on in that area. One of the parking lots on the list is Swanson Green Field.
Catch up there.
Oh, I'm behind. Sorry about that. Thanks, Dave. Swanson Green Field, this is by the ball fields out north of Wilmer Avenue. And as you can see, that parking lot's in pretty rough shape. What the plan is here is to, obviously, as I mentioned before, remove the bituminous, replace the grading, and replace that, and we're also going to increase the size of that, increase some parking in that area. Parking lot at the Public Works facility. This is in the south of the building. As you can see there, it's in pretty rough shape. We're going to, I think I have some notes here on that. Apologize, try to get caught up here. The area of this lot is 36,000 square feet. It was originally constructed in 1975. The proposed cross-section is to put 4 inches of bituminous on this, which is less than a regular street. And an estimated cost on this particular, I can go back on these two if you need to, estimated cost on this particular parking lot is $121,000. So under utility construction, we've got Benson Avenue to Sperryville sanitary sewer lining, and that is a cured-in-place pipe, similar to what we did on the project for the Midwest Lift Station. That worked very well, and it's a no-dig technology, and so they can park over 2 different manholes and run that liner in between the 2 manholes. We've got a water main relocation project, and we're replacing some fire hydrants on Lakeland Drive and out by Airport Drive. This is a sewer lining project, and as you can see, it goes underneath the railroad, and by parking outside of the railroad right-of-way, the process by get permits from the railroad is a whole lot simpler, because you're not disrupting any railroad traffic, you're not digging any trenches, and so we have to plant 1 manhole because everything drains to that manhole on the south there at Dolson and Benson, and so we have to pump from that manhole to have a line dry underneath the railroad to accomplish that project. Along East Highway 12, this water main relocation project. This, as you'll recall, the East Highway 12 was reconstructed last year. In doing that, the water line, it's a little hard to see with the additional lines on the paper, but the existing water line is now in the lowest part of the trench, or of the borrow ditch, if you will, along that highway project. And so it's too shallow, and so we're worried about freezing there. And so we're going to relocate a portion of that line with heavy involvement from MUC in helping the project cost on that. For those interested, the project cost on that 8-inch water line is not quite $14,000. We got a number of fire hydrant replacements. We need to replace 2 of them, and actually I think that number is 3 now since the publication of the minutes or of the agenda. We're going to relocate them farther back from the drive surface so that if cars run off the side of the road there, they're not taking out the hydrants, as you can see in this case here. On to the overlays. An overlay, we mill, which is take off the top 1.5 or 2 inches of surface of pavement, bituminous, however, whichever term you like to use there. We remove and replace curb and gutter as needed on these projects as well. We will, at that point, we can actually dig and correct damaged areas, whether it be utilities, spot locations on utilities, or soft spots on the road. We can take care of those, and then we follow that up with 1.5 to 2 inches of bituminous paving. So Trot Avenue is one of our state aid streets that we're going to do a portion of overlay. And as you can see, it goes from First Street east to Julie Street. See if I got some more notes here on that. It was reconstructed, let's see, reconstructed in 1995. There's 13 inches of aggregate. There's 6 inches of bituminous currently. The current rating is an 80, which is in the range, as I've mentioned before, excuse me, of the overlay sections. The estimated cost on this particular section of street is just over $241,000. Another section of state aid street, Candy Ojai, from 11th to 7th. This is a section that was not reconstructed, obviously. This is another state aid project. It's almost 3/10 of a mile in length. It was reconstructed in 1992. Currently has 10 inches of aggregate, 6 inches of bituminous. Current rating is 70 on my scale of 1 to 100, and the current cost is just over $117,000 for that project. The non-state aid or the city-only streets. This is 23rd Street Southwest. This is from Trot Avenue north for 340 feet. It my apologies. It's 0.06 of a mile, 316 feet in length. The previous overlay in 1989. It has 15 inches of aggregate, 5.5 inches of bituminous currently. The rating is 65. The plan is to do 1.5 inches paving, and the current cost is almost $19,000. Seventh Street Southeast, most of you will recognize this as the road that drives south off of Wilmer to the old wastewater treatment plant and the bus service back in there. It's 800 feet in length. It was constructed in 1979. It has 5 inches of aggregate, 1.5 inches of bituminous, and the current rating is 65. The cost on this particular section is almost $31,000. (25th Street Southeast, from 7th to 4th Avenue. This particular section is 1/4 of a mile in length. It was constructed in 1983. Actually, a portion of it was in 1983. A portion of it was 1993. It's got 4 inches of aggregate, 3 inches of bituminous. Current rating is between 45 and 65. The plan is to mill 1.5 inches and pave 1.5 inches. This one was one of the streets that was pulled from the 2014 projects. The estimated cost is almost $79,000. On to paths and overlays and striping. We're starting into our miscellaneous projects. We've got Rao Park Path from the fairgrounds to 15th Avenue. We have Hedeen Park. Actually, I think I got a map here. There we go. We got Hedeen Park overlay That's 7th Street Northwest to Country Club Drive and to Robbins Island. We have the Robbins Island Beach Path overlay from the west boat ramp to the Hilltop Shelter. And then the other miscellaneous projects that I'll go through real quick are Lakeland Drive on-road bike trails, which will be painting, signage, and then from Civic Center to the Trunk Highway 12. Oops. Lakeland Drive from the highway to Civic Center Drive. This will be on the road. The pavement's already wide enough there. We can do some striping and some signage there to increase our bike traffic or safety for the bike traffic on that particular road. And this is, I believe it'll be on the east side of the road in that location. Our storm pond improvements, as I mentioned, this will be cleaning out. This is not a very good picture, but this is the pond that is on Civic Center, north of Civic Center Drive near Midwest Campus, and this will be cleaning that out to make it more efficient for stormwater detention. My anticipated schedule, if everything goes well, is obviously the improvement hearing is today. We're going to try to let the bids very soon, mid-March, meaning advertise those bids. Our assessment hearing is currently scheduled for mid-May. I want to award the bid shortly after, award the bid shortly after that time, begin construction as early in June as possible, and then potentially end construction in October. Now for the page everybody's been waiting for, our reconstruction. Oh, we only got a chance to look at that very quickly. Dave and I are fighting with each other here. So, reconstruction is almost $1 million in just under half mile. And if you'll recall, earlier in the year, I mentioned that the current going rate for reconstruct of a street is almost $2 million a mile. So that fits in pretty close to that average. The overlays for that almost 3 miles of overlays is as you can see there, $27,000. And then all the miscellaneous projects together, that would be the utilities and the stormwater ponds, are $280,000 for a total estimated projects of $1.8 million for this coming summer. And I believe that's all I have, if council has any questions for me.
Okay, we'll open up for the public first. Anybody from the public that would like to speak on any of the projects? Go ahead. State your name, address for the record.
My name is Bruce Watland. I have a house on 1209 Carolina Avenue, Southwest. And I would like to know if Sean can address the issue as far as removal of trees. They've already removed approximately 10 really nice shade trees along that street. And I understand they can interfere with the road, but about 3 years ago there was a reconstruction on 11th Street, and I think there was only one tree removed along there. But that picture that Sean showed us earlier, the road doesn't look like that at all right now. And I'm just wondering if he could address that issue.
Public Works Director Christensen.
Thank you, Mayor.
Maybe we can pull that picture back up if you can, Dave. Carolina Avenue.
Yeah, so what happened in this particular situation is if there's any damage to those roots, Mr. Mayor, as construction is going on, then those trees are damaged and are a liability in that case as far as not having that root structure to maintain those trees. We've got that going on. We've got a couple trees, roots that have pushed curb and gutter, and so without being able to put the curb and gutter back into place, without damaging those root structures or the roots damaging the curb and gutter and lifting that, thereby causing ponding. And then I believe in this particular situation, I think we're going to potentially, I don't think there's a sidewalk plan, but I think there is potentially a couple feet of width, and I don't have that note in front of me. But most of those trees, if they were taken out for the construction, are because they are damaging or potential damage to that curb and gutter.
Okay. So the question was, is about 10 trees been taken out already? Would that be pretty accurate, would you think?
You know, I think that would be pretty accurate. I don't have the exact number in front of me. I can sure get that for you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it to the council table. Council? Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move to approve the street improvements for 2015.
Going to do all three?
Second.
Going to do all three at once?
That would be all three of them.
Okay.
So we can do that in one, Kevin, is that correct?
The whole improvement?
Yep.
Yeah.
One ordinance.
So you're going to order the street improvement report, approve the plans and specs, and approve the budget.
As written.
Okay? Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to follow up on this trees business just a little bit, because I'm not sure that I understood what you were saying. But anytime there are trees that are damaging the roadway or the existing curb, we have to take them out?
That's correct. And what happens is, Councilmember Anderson, sorry, Mayor Calvin, when those tree roots, as they're seeking water, they're moving obviously around, and they're very large. I mean, I think I've heard 2 times the size of your canopy. Okay, so what happens is that those roots start pushing up on that curb and gutter or up on the street, and so you can damage that. You can damage the asphalt, you can damage the curb and gutter, and then also, as flat as we are here, when it prevents water from running down the curb as currently designed, you end up with low spots, you end up with water ponding, mosquitoes, and then, of course, stagnant water, so it smells too, if that's the case there.
Okay, and then we replace them with like a 2-inch caliper tree, or we do replace them, don't we?
We do, and my understanding is what happens is that there's an approved list that if the residents haven't been given that list, I think they are given that list of approved trees, and I'll have to check with Public Works, but at that point, I believe that is the case, that they have a list to choose from, and then we do that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Johnson, followed by Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sean, any replantings there, what's the setback, about 15 feet?
I believe that setback is about 15 if you're talking from the curb, because we try to keep them out of the right-of-way.
I mean, I'm familiar with Carolina. I used
Sure.
to live across on the other side on Candy High Avenue when I was growing up, and where I live now, the trees are 50,
Right.
it's a 70-foot street, and they put in, it has a 100-foot right-of-way, so there's 15 feet beyond each curb up into the yard for tree planting, and I know my trees the city planted is back, but approximately 15 feet from the curb, so.
Right, Mayor Calvin, Councilmember Johnson, it's probably a 70-foot right-of-way, unless, I don't know which street you're on, but, so it's 15 back from that would probably be, so about 100
17,
feet.
but there's a 15-foot snow removal and
Right.
easement area that is on each side of the street for snow plowing and the usual things.
That's
the city
correct.
has to tend to the trees and so on, but I would imagine that the residents would be consulted before any trees were put in.
I would imagine as well.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your report. I listened to you this morning on open mic, and
Don't hold that against me.
very well. You indicated in both times that you expected better bids and more bidders. Can you explain that more thoroughly?
Mayor Calvin, Councilmember Dockin, I think that's right. I always expect better bids. Whether that happens or not is a different story, but this particular year, as everyone knows, oil prices have gone down from past years, and so that's potentially helping our bid process, and and some numbers there. The other thing that I'm very hopeful for is I've moved this process up, maybe only a few weeks to a month at this point. My ultimate goal is to move this process up so that we're bidding this time of year, or even, January, February timeframe would be my ultimate goal, in which, as I mentioned earlier today, was the goal is to get in when the contractors are setting their schedule instead of trying to fit us into their schedule that's already set.
All right. How many contractors would you anticipate might bid?
Based on past experience, it sounds like bidding, if we bid too late, it sounds like past experience is, if you get a couple bidders, 2 to 3 bidders, you're doing pretty good. However, the industrial park, when we bid that in November, I think we ended up with 10 or 12 bidders.
Yeah, I think it's worth a try, I think, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Christensen, followed by Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Sean. The reconstruction we're doing throughout the city, when they get to the storm sewer or stormwater sewer, are we going to put bigger ones in?
Yeah, Councilmember Christensen, Mayor Calvin, that's the plan. If the design or if the storage basin or the drainage basin calls for it. And so what happens is each individual project we look at differently or separately, and then we design for the entire basin that stormwater pipe should hold and will hold. And yes, if it justifies a larger pipe, we put a larger pipe in.
I know in southwest Wilmer, a lot of them are just 10 inches carrying water for a long, long way, and I would assume that they'd make them larger just to carry the water quicker, and then when they reconstruct the next street next to it, they'd add on to that. But sounds like you got control of that already.
Councilmember Christensen, that's the plan. We have to be careful to just upsize because we can upsize, because then what happens is you end up with bigger problems downstream. And so we do take all that into account. We take the entire basin into account and the existing piping that's there. And if we can upsize them and eliminate, not eliminate, because I hate to say that word, but help alleviate some of the stormwater issues, we do it the best we can.
Okay, and then the fire hydrant replacement, is that from frost moving it around, or what?
Some frost, Councilmember Christensen, some frost, and some vehicle accidents have damaged some of those, and some of them actually we're wanting to move, but we can't, we can't access the valves. The valves and the mechanism itself won't move, and so we have to dig them up and move them.
So they're going all the way down to the water line and then put a new one up?
That's correct.
Okay. Then one other item, on Carolina Avenue that Mr. Johnson referred to, I noticed on the picture those trees are like 6 feet back from the curb. I suspect that setback over there is a lot smaller. It's an older street. Would you be planting them on that same setback, or would you go further back on the lot? It's going to be on the people's property that way.
Right. Mayor Calvin, Councilmember Christensen, the plan would be to go back a little further so that we don't have the potential to damage that curb that we currently have going on now, and so that the residents can use those trees for a good long time.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Sean. The green parking lot at Swanson, that should stay there for years. We don't have any plans to readjust that field or anything like that in the near future, since we just got our park plan.
Right, Mayor Calvin, Councilmember Fagerly, the plans, if they move forward for those fields, would be the field itself, not necessarily the parking lot area. And so I'm confident that this parking lot itself would be there for a good long time.
All right, and then the Canyon High 7th to 11th Street, if it gets to be under construction during Coffee Fest time, are they aware of that, so they might have to change the route or lineups? Or?
Right, Mayor Calvin, Councilmember Fagerly, what would happen is after the bid process, after the bids are accepted, part of the pre-construction meeting would be, it would be relayed to the winning bidder, the contractor at that time, that, look, during this time you have to make a account for that particular time frame and week, maybe.
All right, and then one last question on the city garage parking lot. You're going to put down, what, 4 inches of base?
I believe that's what, sorry, sorry, I lost track of which slide's which now, but I believe that is the case. It's less than a standard street, but it's because it doesn't have the traffic, the amount of, it's got the weight, but it doesn't have the amount of traffic on that particular area.
Okay. I was just wondering with the heavy equipment, if that would bust it up, or...
Right, and we've done some preliminary asphalt design on that and some strength design, and we'll definitely make sure and we get enough asphalt strength in there.
All right, thank you.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly. 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, that resolution passes. Next, we'll call on Wes Homp to give us the public hearing to consider an ordinance for proposed water rates. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, water rates are first, I guess.
Thank you, Mayor Kelvin. Yeah, I was going to basically introduce our Director of Finance to be able to go through the details of the plan. Tim Hunstead will be able to give you quite a bit of details on how we arrived at the water rate. And we have some stuff for the overhead as well as some other information for you. I know we went through this with our commission. We went through and reviewed it with the Finance Committee. And I think you have some information with you. If there's further details you'd like, we'll definitely try to get that to you. Mr. Hunstead, would you like to come up and talk about our water rates there?
Good evening. The WMU water rates were last increased on January 1st of 2012, so that's over 3 years ago. When we first started the analysis, we looked at a peer study or a peer group and compared our water rates, and the water rates in Willmar are incredibly low when compared to some of those peers. What we found out is that the water production assets that are part of our fixed assets are approaching 80% fully depreciated, and there is a very high need for upgrading and replacement. And right now we are planning for extensive capital expenditures in the future for the life extension for both the Northeast water plant and the Southwest water plant. The Northeast water plant is expected to be refurbished in the 2017 to 2019 timeframe, and that's about a $5 to $6 million investment. The Southwest water plant will be refurbished in the 2020 to 2022 timeframe, and will be at the same $5 to $6 million. The rate increase of 20%. Currently, the revenues for that the entire water division of Willmar Municipal Utilities is about $2.1 million. So a 20% increase will raise a couple $100,000 and will affect a typical residential bill by about $2 to $4 a month. So literally a gallon of gas or a cup of coffee type of increase. I know 20% sounds like a lot, but in terms of real dollars, it's a fairly small increase. We do have some charts that show what the impacts is on typical bills. I know that Wes has those, and I will have more remarks when we talk about the electricity rates. Thank you.
Okay.
Council members, if you have any questions, we can open this up to the public if you don't have any questions, and have any questions from there.
Okay, we'll ask the public first. Is there any questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, bring it to the council table.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you for the presentation and the numbers. Just curious.
Councilmember Plowman, could we get a motion to accept it first, a motion a second, and then we can discuss?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, there's been motion and second. Okay, Councilmember Plowman.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. Is there a current rate of increase proposed for the future? Or is this the current one on the table, and is the one on the table the one that remains focused on?
Councilmember Plowman, City Council, what we're doing as a plan was to go with this rate adjustment right now and keep a really close eye on our costs and what our capital improvement requirements are, and come back through the process once again to make sure that our assumptions on costs going forward as well as revenues going forward were accurate. And if that is correct, there may be subsequent rate adjustments required for all the capital improvements. If they are off a bit, we might actually be able to delay some of these rate adjustments farther down the road. But what we see in front of us is, because there's such a significant capital improvement requirements for these two water treatment plants, that further rate adjustments seem to be inevitable. But we don't know exactly what those rates will be right now. We're going with just one year at a time. Our commission requested that we just do this 1 year and not multi-year request.
Okay. So annually, no less than annually?
Possibly annually. We might be able to skip a year as we move forward and we take a close look at our rates, and we'll be doing that on a regular basis.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Wes. What would drive annual increases in water rates? What are some of the things that the commission would be looking at?
Well, the strongest driver is the capital improvement requirements of the two water treatment plants. We had originally planned two-year process, and as Mr. Hunstead outlined, it was going to take a lot longer and have a lot lower impact on an annual basis to our ratepayers. And so with this 20% adjustment, and we're going to be putting some upgrades on our southwest well field and our southwest treatment plant in anticipation of the work to be done at the northeast plant. And we should be able to make it through this year, and as we're going through watching our revenues and our expenses, we're just looking at our capital requirements, because along with the water mains, we still have the normal maintenance requirements, and our previous funds have been able to cover those, but the big change is these capital requirements for the two treatment plants.
Okay, and could you talk also about our aquifers and the quality of water we have? My understanding is that it's very good.
We have right now plentiful water from our wells. We haven't had a lot of depletion that I've been aware of, so that is a good thing. The quality of the water, you know, it has rust in it. That's the reason we have those plants, and we put them in 91. Prior to that, anybody who was doing a load of laundry ran the risk of getting a blast of rust into their laundry. That was the main trigger for that. Those plants are going to be designed, the new design is going to be not only for the rust, but in anticipation of further requirements for removing different chemicals in the water as required by the EPA and the Minnesota PUC or PCA. And so the subsequent designs are going to have more things involved than just removing the rust.
Thank you.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Wes. I noticed on the increase of water rates here that the customer charge per month has only gone up on the residential and not on commercial or industrial. Why just the residential?
What we did is, when we did the cost of service study, all of the costs that were associated with every bit of serving every class of customer, whether residential, commercial, or industrial, were looked at, and they were separated out in each one of these classes to really truly identify where the costs were. And as a result of that, we found that the costs that we were charging, or the cost to serve a residential customer, was higher than what we were charging. So we're trying to even that out.
So the cost you say for residential, why would that go up? I mean, because there more is used there than the commercial industrial, or I'm not quite following your
The monthly charge reflects the fixed costs, the mains, the service, the meters, what it costs to get to each one of the residences. and as well as their portion of the production facilities. And as we went through the iterations of all of the different classes, that was where the result came from. So it's not the flow of the water, but it's the actual fixed charges or the fixed costs that we have, and the vast majority, again, is those treatment plants.
So the residents, it costs more money to send water to them than it does to industrial and commercial. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. Now, keep in mind that the industrial and commercial, they get to deduct that as a operational cost, and residents don't. I don't think it's fair, even though it costs more to send the water to residents, to just only raise their monthly charge. I just don't think that's fair. And has the water usage in Willmar gone down the past few years, or is it on the rise?
Our largest water user has gotten very good at conserving, but so have everybody else, because your sewer rates are tied to your water use, and anybody who has a sewer bill recognizes that as one of the larger pieces of their bill, and so they reduce their water use, so they as well reduce their sewer cost.
So then the water usage has gone down?
To a certain extent, yes, it has. We're not producing as many gallons or cubic feet.
Okay.
That's correct.
And one consequence of that is the less water we use in Willmar, the more it costs.
On a per unit basis, if you have the same cost to produce the water or the same infrastructure to support. And again, we spent nothing on our treatment plants for over 20 years, and that's the largest trigger we have, and that is a fixed charge, a fixed cost for us, which needs to be paid through 20-year bonds, I would assume.
Yeah, and that's why our sewer rates went up, I mean, to pay for that. I know a lot of people are conserving, including some of the biggest users, and that's another concern of mine. The less water we use, the more it costs. You know, it's kind of opposite what you would think, what logic would tell you. But so if everybody starts conserve some more water this year, the rates they're going to go up anyway.
Unfortunately, for us to pay for the treatment plants, it's a fixed charge, and it boils into that. We try to have a little bit of it in the variable charge, which is the flow charge, but we try to make it as the costs reflect, or the charges reflect what the costs are, to make it as fair as possible.
Okay. And for those people that water their yards, would you advise them to have 2 meters so they aren't charged for the water that goes in the yard that doesn't go down the sewer?
Actually, the rates for the sewer are set up to take into account summer irrigation. And so throughout the winter, when there is, assuming no irrigation, we have a winter average. And they use that winter average for the summer usage. And so the big impact is not to increase the wastewater charge in the summertime. And so they use the winter average number if it is a larger number or a smaller number than their actual use. Mm-hmm. So they get a credit for summer irrigation.
Okay. I'm still contemplating this no monthly charge increase to the commercial and industrial and only to residential at 20%. I don't follow that.
Okay, additional questions?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're ready to vote to adopt the...
I think someone has a question out in the audience.
Well, we already closed the public hearing to the audience. It's to the city council now. So to adopt the ordinance amending the water rates charged by the Willmar Municipal Utilities. So roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Christensen.
No.
6 ayes, 1 nay.
Okay, resolution passes, or the ordinance passes. Next, we have consideration of an ordinance for proposed electric rate increases. Wes?
Once again, Mr. Hunstead be able to fill you in on the details and the background of how we got to this point here in our electric rate adjustment. and then I will be happy to answer questions after that.
The last electric rate increase for the Willmar Municipal Utilities took place in 2011 when we did a 7% increase on July 1st, and then there was an additional 7% increase in 2012 on January 1st. At that time, there was a meeting of the minds between the Municipal Utility Commission and the City Council that instead of having these large, lumpy rate increases, we would be more proactive in our planning and take a look at moderate rate increases as we go forward so that we didn't have rate shock. And so we would have smaller rate increases, something under 5%, but perhaps we would have them more frequently. And what I want to do is talk about where those costs have come from 2012 since the last rate increase. In 2012, total utility operating expenses were $24.8 million. The budget for 2015 is $31.7 million, which is about a $7 million increase, or 28% over that 4-year time period. And I'm going to review some of the major changes. This is a pie chart of 2012. In 2012, 62% of all of our expenses derived from the production, acquisition, and delivery of electricity to the customers. 50% was the power supply, which is the blue part here, and includes most of the transmission at that time as well. This little gray slice is independent transmission, and then electric production from the facilities that we have was 11% of our expenses. So again, 62% of our expenses were for the acquisition, production, and delivery of electricity. Labor and overheads contributed 20%. Depreciation was 9%. And the actual distribution for all those utilities was then some smaller percentages. In the yellow portion here is the labor and overheads. That was a complement of 58 people in 2012. Now I'll turn to 2015, and we'll take a look at those expenses. Today, the cost to acquire, produce, and transmit that electricity is 65% of our expenses. So it's growing a little bit in total proportion. Power supply, we've done a better job now of splitting out what the transmission costs are. And that's a very significant piece because that is a future driver as more projects are being completed, transmission projects are being completed in the market that we serve. We're going to see much higher costs of transmission. The increase that we're seeing here in the power production, delivery, and transmission is roughly $5.2 million over that 4-year time period, or about 75% of the total increase. This is driven largely by fixed increases in the cost of the purchase power contracts that we have, most notably the nuclear facilities from Wisconsin Public Power. We have a rapidly increasing cost of transmission, going up at about 6 to 10% a year, and that's one of the evolving strategies that we've gotten into, is actually investing in transmission, because that will dampen that effect of those rate increases, because we'll be receiving revenues to offset that. Today we are underinvested from a transmission standpoint, and as we look at more projects like the Priam substation coming up, that will be helpful in helping us equate our revenues and our expenses in the transmission area. The bottom line is that the 65% of our costs relate to getting the power and getting it to the customers. The cost increases are in our fixed power purchase contracts and are in the transmission system. 18% of our costs are in labor. That's down from 20% in 2012. We have the same complement, 58 people, that we did in 2012. Obviously, they're different people, but we have the same 58 people. And during that period of time, we've seen healthcare costs increase substantially as well. Depreciation has fallen to 7% of our total expenses from 9% in 2012, and it's up only 1% as far as a total cost. And that's because the pace of capital investment that the utility has made over that time has been very small. We continue to add the issue of the aging of our assets. Most of our assets are greater than 50% depreciated and will start to require additional attention for maintenance if we don't start a planned program of replacement. So the electric rate adjustment that is being requested is 4.5%. And just for a comparison purpose, I took a look at what the CPI growth was from 2012 to 2015. It was 5.2%. So this is pretty much in line with an inflationary increase over that period of time. Thank you.
Okay. Public comment? Go ahead. And again, state your name and address for the record, please.
Chris Peterson, 419 12th Street Northwest.
Go ahead.
I guess I was just wondering if there's going to be a trend in the electric to raise the meter charges, like there's a trend in, is Christensen noticed like the water and stuff is electrical rates, power generating and stuff costs more. How long is the coal plant going to be used for, the lifetime of that, going forward? If there's a huge cost in that, is that going to up the meter charges rather than the rates? And then I guess I had a question with the water, the meeting that I sat in on with the commissioners, it was that the water treatment plant wasn't meeting the discharge for the water. And it was like 33 million, I thought I heard with that. Is that part of what's driving the waste treatment plant? Maybe I misunderstood, but that's what I heard, like a salty discharge wasn't meeting the EPA requirements. And I thought you would touch on that with the council.
Wes, you want to answer that for us? Just so you understand, the wastewater treatment plant is the city part, and municipal utilities does the water and the electric and the heat. So just so you understand the differences there. And I don't know, Sean, if you want to make a comment in regards to the wastewater treatment plant, if needed at the end. Not right now, but if needed. So, Wes, you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Peterson, council members, Mayor Kelvin. There's quite a few questions here. The fixed charges, we'll address the meter charge or the fixed charge. It's a per meter cost. As we went through the study, we were looking at, again, allocating costs for what it's actually costing us to serve these. And when you look at our investment in our infrastructure, we've got a lot of underground wires that are 25 plus years old that will be needing replacement. That's part of that fixed charge, or the part that delivers the power to the customer. That would be part of the fixed charge. I know that if you have a much higher fixed charge per meter, a lot of utilities have chosen to increase their fixed charges considerably. The co-op has, and a lot of other co-ops that have a very dispersed customer base, have had to increase their fixed charges on a regular basis because they realized that they couldn't get the kilowatt hour flow to pay for all of their fixed charges, so they put it into their monthly. We don't have that problem yet. However, we're heading that direction. And one other reason we're doing that for is because there are distributed generation requirements. If somebody puts on their own solar or their wind panels or wind turbines up, all of the invested cost of the equipment to serve them is not allowed to sell kilowatt hours. But whenever the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing, we still need to send that electricity to them. They may have a net zero at their meter, but that means they're not paying for the entire installed plant of everything we've done to make sure that they get power whenever they need it, not just when the wind is blowing or the sun is shining. And that capital cost is shared by everybody else. If you happen to have your own generation, you should also pay your fair share in the capital costs or in the fixed meter charges. So there's a potential for the fixed charges to move to get that a little bit more fair for everybody else, and not all of your charges would be through your energy charge or your kilowatt hours. Yeah, the water discharge, we have a treatment plant that, one of the questions on the salty discharge, the main thing is that the wastewater treatment plant is not able to handle all that. They were not designed for that. The rules for salty discharge may be delayed until sometime in 2030. But in the meantime, to get rid of salty discharge is to get rid of everybody's water softeners that put salt into the waste stream. To do that, you would end up on the supply side a whole municipal water softening system, which we're looking at an $8 million investment to do what we've done and have it ready for a few other the EPA requirements for water softening. We're talking 40 million plus, and that all goes into everybody's rates. So that's a really, really big question. We have some time to think about it and hopefully get some really good designs to take care of that, and hopefully that $40 million will not be realized. We'll have a better plan to take care of that. As far as the coal plant, we're looking at many different generation options. We're going through a study right now for our local generation, and hopefully we'll have some good answers on that one.
Okay. Mr. Peterson, did that answer your questions? Go ahead and come back up if you'd like. Wes, why don't you grab one of the mics?
I guess fairly as much. I guess if a guy did do solar and you were paying your meter, isn't that going towards the infrastructure?
Yes, it's going towards the infrastructure to a little bit, but it's not fully paying the installed cost if you have a zero net on your meter. And what we're right now, a lot of the fixed charges we have are actually still rolled into the energy rate. And that's what the traditional way has always been, because there hasn't been distributed generation on a regular basis. As more and more customers decide to go with distributed generation and end up with a net 0 kilowatt hours, that system is still there to back them up, and they're not paying for it fully with just the existing fixed charges we have for each meter.
But you're still benefiting from the power, and the person that put it in incurred the expense.
That's correct. Well, the energy off of a solar panel is 5 times more what we sell it for, so I don't know if that's a benefit for the rest of the customers.
But we're not going to get into it. We're not going to get into a discussion about whether or not solar energy home produced is a better deal or not. But so basically your question is based on the fact that if the meter charge goes up because someone's generating their own power to end up at a net 0, is there an advantage to the utility? Is that your question?
No, it's just where I'm getting up. I've been in my house like 15 years, and power stayed about the same, you know, and water and everything, but it just seems like the bill keeps creeping up. I mean, you know, when you go to conserve, you think it would cost a little bit less. You want to have to plan for, you know, extra power lines coming in and whatnot for the city. You know, it just seems like there's a trend, you know, where a person can't conserve, or it doesn't pay to conserve because your rate goes up. It's like the water in your yard. You know,
Okay, thank you. Additional questions from the public? Mr. Square? Name and address, please.
Bob Score, 617 Southwest 14th Street. I'll direct this to Wes here. Okay, let's see, salty discharge down the pipe. Is that, how corrosive is that to the system? No, there's no, I mean, Sean, would you know?
Mayor Calvin, members of the council, at this point, there's virtually, it's minimal if there's anything, especially with the plastic lines. The PVC pipe is very resistant to most, if not all, corrosion.
Well, that I'd understand, but I mean, there's got to be some old cast pipe and stuff yet in this town, I would think. I mean, would it be, I know it's pretty heavy wall stuff, so it'd probably take a long time, but I'm just curious. And another thing is, like this guy mentioned, if a lot of people were to try to conserve, that would definitely cut back on your revenue, so rates would have to go up. I mean, that's just a given, is that not correct? He's shaking his head, yes. And, oh, go ahead.
As a matter of fact, what we're trying to do is keep our rates as stable as possible regardless of the flow, and we're working on getting a power portfolio that reflects and is able to let us be a bit more proactive on our rates. The existing long-term contract structure that we've been living under for the last 30 years is about to expire next year, which will give us more time or more opportunity to actually buy on the market when we need it, as opposed to reserving much more than we need because we are looking for and investing in the highest peak that happens every single year. And that's a very expensive way of doing it, but that's what you have to do because nobody understands when we don't have power during the hottest time of the year for air conditioning. And so we're trying to get a bit more proactive on that with our power purchase portfolio. So it's not necessarily true that less flow means less dollars and higher rates per unit.
But I'm sure you guys got to schedule X amount of usage a year that's going to complement your revenue. I mean, you need X amount of revenue to you know, do your capital improvements and whatever.
That's correct.
Okay, one other thing is a $4 utility improvement charge. Can you kind of explain that a little bit? That's on the bill.
That is for the sewer rates, and that is something that we administer for the city. So
That's a city bill.
Okay, well, I didn't know that, so I just wanted to, okay, that's all I got. Thanks.
Yeah, that was put on by the city council. Okay. Additional questions? Okay, close the public hearing, bring it up to the city council.
Mayor, I move to approve the electric rate increase.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to consider an ordinance for proposed electric rate increase. Discussion. Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, has electrical usage gone down in Wilmer the last few years? As did the water.
Councilmember Christensen, during the economic downturn, yes, the actual kilowatt-hour sales did recede in 2008 and 9, and they've been slowly returning or actually fairly level. This past year has seen a slight increase, and with the commercial activity we're seeing this year, we're budgeting for a bit more increase for 2015.
Could you explain we hear the transmission costs are going up. Could you explain that to us and the public? What are you saying with transmission costs? Is it getting from wherever we buy it to here and then to the customer, or what does it all entail?
That's correct. Transmission is cross-country. A lot of power is being generated in North Dakota. We have a very large power generator in Becker, Minnesota, and there's large power lines emanating from those places. The last major construction for transmission was in the middle 70s until recently. And if anybody's driven on I-94 or south along the Minnesota River, they'll see there's some fairly significant transmission lines being installed. And all of those in that grid, you could call it the grid, infrastructure that's put in there is expensive, and everybody uses it. Somebody might had said that a power plant down in Omaha has to increase if you flip a switch in Baudette, and that's true. Everything is interconnected that way, and so these transmission lines are basically the highways for the power. And as they upgraded them, as more and more use was needed. They got upgraded recently, and all of that needs to be paid by everybody who actually uses the grid, which is everybody.
So when we get so many kilowatts from Monticello, what do we pay on the open market for that to get it to Wilmer?
It all depends on the minute it is delivered. The market out there is dynamic. We have fixed contracts. We have a portfolio of fixed contracts that covers the vast majority of our needs. If, in fact, we used up everything in our contracts, we go out on the open market and find out whether it is cost-effective for us to buy it at that time. The way the market is set up is that it's a supply and demand. In the middle of the summer, on the hottest period of time, a kilowatt hour of power costs 2 to 3 times what we charge for it. However, that only lasts a few hours. The vast majority of the time, what is out on the market is less than what we charge for it, so we're able to make enough to invest in the following year and pay our expenses.
But typically, how many cents per kilowatt hour? What?
That's a really hard one. Okay, let's today, all right?
You buy it at 5 and you sell it at 11, or you buy it at 3 and sell it at 11?
We are purchasing our power in the range of about $55 a megawatt, or 5 cents, 5.5 cents, and our average sale is about 10 cents, so it's a 100% markup generally.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Okay.
Okay. And then could you give a typical example of, for residents, how this can be affected?
Yes. Customer that is very good at conservation of their energy, who has done a good job at making sure they replace their light bulbs from incandescent to either compact fluorescents or even now LEDs, and make sure that the heater isn't left on when they leave the house, will end up having a increase on average. This was, we looked at our December bills from last year. On average, there'll be a $3.91 increase in their monthly bill. A family of 4 or 5 that the kids stay in the shower for hours and hours may see a different, and that's more like $8.47 difference per month on the due to this rate.
And as a percentage, comparing the residential to commercial and industrial, I didn't do the math on here, the difference, because there's so many numbers, but on a percentage, is the residential going up more than the commercial and residential? Excuse me, commercial and industrial?
Well, overall, the residential is right at around 4%. Commercial is around 4% also. It's in the large power, on the demands are higher, which is the fixed charges. Again, that's what you pay for. The demand is also what you pay for the infrastructure. Those have gone up on both the large power and the industrial.
Okay. I expressed concern again about the commercial industrial, not paying their way, and the residential, the small customers paying most of the tab here. Due to the fact that, commercial industrial, again, they get to deduct this as an operational cost at the end of the year, and us small residential customers don't get to do that. So that's an advantage. Another concern I have here is on your CIP, is there a percentage of this increase that's going to the capital program? Is it like 2% of that, or 10% or 50% of the increase? Because you've got a lot of capital. CIP is quite large for the next 5 years.
That's correct.
Millions of dollars.
That's right. Like Tim had said, our plant is so depreciated that if we don't do something soon, we're going to have much, much bigger bills. We're almost past that old saying that you either pay me now or you pay me later. We're getting close to later right now. And what that's going to end up doing to the rates, if we don't start with these small increments early, is we'll have large steps, which is something that is very unpalatable. I went through that in 2012 and don't want to do that again. And so we're trying to work on that. And back to your question on the fairness on the rates, because we did the study to look at what it costs to serve each one of these classes of customers, our goal is to get the fairness in, so what it costs is also what we charge. And we're getting closer. In 2012, prior to 2012 and 2008, we did another cost of service study, and we closed that gap to an extent, and now we're closing it more in this. So we're trying to get them, again, more fair and reflect the actual cost with our charges.
A lot of the industrial and commercial people wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the residential people. They're the workers, the worker bees, and they're paying a major part of this. I noticed on the CIP you've got some money dedicated for office and garage headquarters over the next 5 years, $8.5 million worth. I suspect would be going west of here.
That was the goal. That was a plan that was adopted over 5 years ago. We had a report done 4 years ago. We had a report done in 2009 that showed that we were in need of facilities upgrade. I did a quick calculation this afternoon on things we know we have to do here in this building, as well as those at the service center. Issues that are right in front of us right now. The service center is going to require, in the next year or so, almost $300,000 worth of fixes just to keep what you have. That includes having the garage door, or the garages are too small for our line trucks. We've got to get special custom short line trucks to fit into there. They don't make them that short anymore, as well as all the rest of the things that go along with it. Here at this building, we have another $250,000 worth of repairs, or just things that need to keep it in one shape. Luckily, in 2013, we did do a $60,000 roof on here to keep the rain out, but we discovered just recently that our foundation has some major issues too. This building was built when Wilmer Avenue was the frontier of the town, and it's, we've gotten quite a few years out of it, but it's gotten to that point where it is not serving the purpose, as well as it needs a lot of work. We looked at remodeling it, and that was an interesting exercise during that study. Remodeling this place was more expensive than starting from scratch, which I was shocked to see.
Well, I expressed concern just to the fact that taxes are going up, fees are going up, water, sewer, electrical rates are going up at a rate not keeping up with people's average monthly income. Mr. Dawkins has been telling us for years here that, I forget what year, but cities are going to start to go broke, and they already have started in outstate Minnesota. And we have to be aware of where these dollars are going, and I, for a new headquarters or the garage definitely needs some attention. I know, because that's where you house your line trucks, but to build a new headquarters, a new utilities building, I don't know. I don't even think we should be thinking about that presently because of where rates are going, and it's getting tough on the average person. I got a son with four children, and they use a lot of water and electricity and sewer and dryer and washer, and it's expensive to live in town. And he expressed some concern to me, and I'm expressing it to you.
Thank you.
Otherwise, thank you for the report. I can't thank you for the rate increase, but thank you.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Wes. I think a couple of thoughts. We need to go back, those of us that were on the council a few years ago, and I don't remember exactly the terminology that was used, but we told the utilities that we didn't want to see these big jumps. It was something we'd rather be nibbled by something than eaten by a shark. Somebody made that sort of a reference. So I think you're doing that. And I think we're losing track of this, the firm that you hired to do the rate study. Can you talk about them and how they conduct this? I mean, you don't come up with these rates and this distribution. You hire someone to do that for you. Is that right?
That's correct. The consultant that we hired has been doing rate studies for utilities throughout the upper Midwest, and I think he's branched off into other states for over 30 years. He understands what the costs are. We gave him a list of our budgets, what our historical costs were. He asked us to divide it out in a way that showed what these different what it costs to serve each class of customer, as well as when to serve them and how much of that was in the fixed and how much was in the variable costs. Variable costs go along up and down with the energy flow. Fixed costs is what it takes to deliver not only generation but transmission and deliver into the neighborhoods. And so when we gave him all those numbers, he took them all and put them into his model, and he gave us a result. And that's what we have in front of us.
Okay. I mean, my point is, it's done on a professional, scientific basis. It's not something that you just said, oh, I think that the residents should do this and that. It's very professionally orchestrated. And then I just have to comment, and I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, but to say that that we're favoring industry and that sort of thing over the residents, that isn't fair. And to say that the industry wouldn't be here if we didn't have the residents, I don't know if the residents would be here if we didn't have the industry. So that's a debate for another day, but there are two sides to the story. All I want to be assured is that we're being fair to all of the users, and based on your professional opinion and from the results of the study, that's what you're presenting to us, it sounds to me like.
It's our sincere attempt to make sure that we are as fair as possible with the rates, so we don't overcharge one class of customer and undercharge another.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for your report, Wes, and Tim. You and I talked after I attended a Utilities Commission meeting here, I don't know, about a month ago, and we chatted a little bit because there was some conversation about these rate increases at that time. And I did some reading before that meeting about, like water usage, electricity, and a lot of people are, I don't know how prevalent it is, but some of my reading, and I've commented on this to you, that providers are trying to encourage some conservation, and so they have different tiers of usage at which rates, the more you use, after so much consumption, your price goes up. And those aren't, I'm sure they aren't set arbitrarily, and you and I talked a little bit then about the cost of providing service, like to your residential customers versus your commercial and your industrial. But we haven't talked about those actual costs yet, and I'm just curious, like for my house, you put a water line in and a power line when I built the house. I don't know what that costs, but how long does it take you to recover that from my, the rates I pay?
Well, that's a good question, Councilman Johnson. We have a lot of costs that go along with what goes to your house. Obviously, your house is the most obvious to you, and it's easy to see in the meter that's on that house. But there's a whole lot of infrastructure behind the rest of that to support it. We have feeder lines that we just replaced in duct as a result of some work. We have generation, as Tim had shown. We have that's one of the largest pieces of our entire budget, and we're paying for that generation capacity to generate what we need when we need it. And that is a huge piece of it that is continually we're paying for. And that's on top of what is actually there to deliver the electricity to your house in your backyard.
Yeah, I understand that. And then there's some businesses south of me that use more power than I do, and I don't know if the line that feeds my house goes to them also, or I'm sure there's different lines obviously running all over the community. And I also understand, Wes, that power and water aren't free, and that we try to keep the rates down. I understand that, but I was just curious about some of those things, because what I read, there are attempts to encourage conservation too, and which actually works against us as consumers, because you've got to have so much revenue to maintain the operation to provide all these, all the power and all the water. So, and if we cut down on usage, the rates are going to go up. And I understand, nobody likes a price increase, but I think we are competitive from, the other while reading the report, for instance, the consultant, it looks like we're pretty competitive, and it'd be nice if you could cut the rates, but that's not what's going on. I understand that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, ready to vote? Okay, roll call?
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you for your good report, and thank you for presenting the information. Also, thanks to you also to our Public Works Director back there, so good job. Next, we have the open forum. Anybody that signed up?
Mr. Bob Score.
I think we've got your address, Bob.
I'll do it again. Just to be legal here. Bob Score, 617 Southwest 14th Street. I would just want to voice my opinion a little bit on that meeting that was on Saturday about giving undocumented people driver's license. Let's back up to November 11th, 2001. We were attacked on our soil in New York. America saw a surge in patriotism and citizens joining the armed forces to help find the people responsible. Our borders were beefed up with more guards 24/7, 365 days a year. They put their lives on the line every day to make this country safe. Our veterans who have fought against these terrorists who were responsible for that tragic day, that are done with their tours, come back to only empty promises, hardship, and very high suicide rate. Over 22 American vets a day take their lives. Now, Minnesota and Willmar officials stick a dart in the hearts of those border guards and those vets who have gone through so much by saying they will back illegal, undocumented people on getting driver's license. What has happened to America? I would like a definition of 2 words: illegal for one and undocumented for another, from anybody in this town who are willing to back this bill. As the definition I was taught years ago doesn't seem to apply anymore. We also have a group that calls themselves Justice for All, supported by the League of Women Voters, who want to give felons back their right to vote. What's next? Giving felons back their guns? Also, will a legal citizen convicted for 1 or more DWIs keep their driver's license as he needs a driver's license to keep his life going? People, where does this end? God save Willmar and God save America. But what's more important, to be a U.S. citizen or to have a driver's license? And I throw something off key here, but where are we at on the auditorium? Thank you.
Okay, Finance Committee report. Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee met on Monday, February 23rd at 4:45. There were no public comments. The next item on our agenda was the annual investment policy review. We reviewed the city investment policy document that requires an annual review, even if there aren't any recommended changes. The committee had questions relating to Section 8.8, which dealt with mutual funds, and who had developed the policy, and if the city clerk is the staff member who makes the final decision and recommendation on types of investment purchases. It was a good discussion, but at the end of that, it was determined that there would be no recommended changes to that policy. Then we had a discussion regarding the operation of the gun range in the city auditorium, and there will be a motion from this. It says information, but there was a motion. Staff explained to us the estimated operating costs and suggested fees. The city auditorium renovation project is nearing completion, and the community ed and recreation programs will again be getting underway. In order to set user fees and gun training charges for the activities in the remodeled gun range, staff has assembled estimated annual operational costs for the range. Incorporating the historical collection of the user fees and conceal and carry class sizes, suggested user rates were offered for council consideration. The estimated annual operating costs would be approximately $26,486, and revenue generated with the proposed rates would be estimated at $27,290. The city could choose to operate the range as a community ed and recreation program and provide staffing, or to contract with another entity, such as the Wilmer Pistol and Golf and Rifle Club, to operate the facility. The committee discussed all the variable options, and following discussion, there was a motion made, second, and passed to direct staff to explore, and I'll make this as a motion, explore one, contracting with the certified range master, use the rates as presented, and also staffing the auditorium facilities at all times that it's open.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion carries.
The next item was a general fund monthly budgetary status report. The City Council had some questions regarding departmental overages that showed up in the 2014 budget, and questions centered on timing, information, notification provided, and the format that it was presented in. We reviewed a couple of different options on how we might look at this, and we decided that how we would handle this in the future. Basically, what we said was we have a format that's computer generated. We want to enhance that a little bit and have a little more formalized report that will highlight those things, how much we're over and why we're over. We're going to take a look at that for a few months, see if that provides the necessary information. And so that will be what you will be seeing going forward in the future. So that was for information only. There was no old business and there were no new business. So unless there's questions, I would move to file these minutes.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to file the minutes. Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarification, could you read that motion that was passed on the gun range? Because it isn't written in here, so.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Where did I find it?
It's on the minutes.
It's right at the bottom under item number 4, the last paragraph before you go to the next page.
I see it. I see it. Just give me a second here.
Thank you, Municipal Utilities Commission members, for being here tonight. Appreciate that.
So it was, we're going to explore contracting with the certified range master, use the rates as presented, and also staffing auditorium facilities at all times. So does that mean we're going to be using the rates as presented in here?
That is correct. I mean, that was the understanding that the staff had from the discussion, that would be the starting point of the rates, that we would be trying to use those rates.
Well, it's too late for discussion. I suppose I could move to rescind or to reconsider. Yeah, I'll move to reconsider the motion.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Discussion.
I believe you need a vote on that.
I'm sorry. Right, yes, you do. Okay.
It just takes some.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
Aye.
The motion fails. We have a motion on the table to file the minutes. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Public Works. Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, we held our meeting on Tuesday, February 24th at 4:45 p.m. at City Hall. Item number 1 was to call the meeting to order. Item number 2, public comments. Nobody was there to speak. So we went on to item number 3, which is our police and fire update, and this is for information only. Our police chief, Mr. Felt, noted that the jail census for that day was 141. 59 of the inmates were from the Department of Corrections, 1 inmate from Stearns County, 1 from the Big Stone County, and 1 inmate from Swift County. Calls for service for the previous 2 weeks totaled 647. Majority of those calls were traffic stops, followed by public assist and crash reports. Our new canine, Axel, is completing his final week of narcotics training, and next month we'll start a 10-week patrol and tracking training program. Our fire chief, Mr. Hendrickson, is also there, and he noted there have been 53 calls for service so far this year. They have been primarily for false alarms, followed by hazardous conditions and several fires so far this year. A report on the 2014-2015 Willmar Fire Department statistics was given, and the 2014 statistics detailed calls for service were mainly from false alarms also. Fridays held the largest amount of fire calls during the week, and there were an average of 17 firefighters on each call. Item number 4 is a resolution. It has to do with the lease agreement with Midwest Wireless Communications, LLC. Our fire chief presented a recommendation to approve the lease agreement with Midwest Wireless Communications, DBA doing business as Verizon Wireless, for the installation and maintenance of a communication antenna facility and related incidental equipment. The duration of the lease is noted at 5 years with an annual rent to the city of $15,000. Verizon would like to replace the existing emergency communications tower at the fire department with a monopole cell tower to improve Verizon's cellular customers' coverage. This tower will also hold the police, fire, and other emergency services space at no charge to the city, as well as any future communication equipment needed for that service at no charge to us. An additional $3,000 in legal fees will be paid by Verizon, and for each additional carrier utilizing the tower, it will generate another $5,000 per year for the city. After some discussion, a motion was made, seconded passed for the following, and I will introduce the resolution to approve the lease agreement with Midwest Wireless Communications, doing business as Verizon Wireless, for the installation and maintenance of a communication antenna facility in the amount of $15,000 for 5 years. That's $15,000 each year for 5 years.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Those in favor, signify. Roll call.
Councilmember Plowman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Darkin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
That resolution passes. I'm looking at the rubber flooring.
Item number 5, request to purchase and replace rubber flooring at the Civic Center. This is also a resolution. Once again, staff presented a recommendation to approve the purchase and replacement of the rubber flooring at the Cardinal Arena and Blue Line Arena from All-American Arena Products. We received quotes from All-American Arena Products in the amount of $54,540 and Arena Warehouse in the amount of $85,800. The quote from All-American Arena Products includes a credit for exchange of unused corrugated steel and screws at the Civic Center. That credit is in the amount of $20,850. Our arena manager, Troy, noted it will not only bring the cost down of replacing the flooring, but also free up space at the Civic Center where the steel has been being stored. The capital outlay program includes $25,000 from unused funds for replacing cedar shakes and $30,000 to $35,000 in estimated profits from the sale of the Zamboni. This new flooring will have a 20-year life and be installed using glue, allowing for better maintenance. Again, after some discussion, a motion was made, seconded, and passed for the following. And I will move to approve the resolution to approve the purchase and replacement of the rubber flooring replacement at the Civic Center from All-American Arena Products.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Darkin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
Item number 6 had to do with sign retroreflectivity policy changes. This is also a resolution. Once again, staff brought forth for review and acceptance the proposed changes to our sign retroreflectivity policy. The goal of the policy is to improve public safety on the city streets by meeting the minimum sign retroreflectivity requirements in the manual on uniform traffic control devices. and was adopted by this council on June 16, 2014. The proposed changes include removal of a portion of the sign inventory section detailing the type, location, and maintenance of the signs, and adding in a blanket replacement, giving the city an interval of 12 years to replace existing signs. Our city will be divided into 12 sections, and each year, one section will have all signs replaced. The cost impact of this policy will vary by the sizes, location, and number of signs, and the Public Works Department will replace signs throughout the year in the designated section as time allows. Just for the general public, the retroreflectivity is the light coming off the signs as you're driving down the road so they don't blind you, and we have to replace all of them, every sign in the city. Following some discussion, a motion was made, seconded, and passed for the following, and I will introduce the resolution to adopt the changes to the sign retroreflectivity policy.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, roll call.
Councilmember Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Christensen. Aye. Anderson.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
Item number 7 had to do with request to purchase and replace 4 Kubota mowers. This is also a resolution. Once again, staff brought forth to the council or to the committee a request to purchase and replace 4 existing Kubota mowers in accordance with the 2015 capital outlay program and our vehicle equipment replacement policy. The new mowers are to be purchased from Haug Kubota through the National Joint Powers Alliance in the amount of $72,695. 2 units are model F3900 mowers with cabs for $51,113. 1 unit is a ZD33 1LP-72 mower for $10,480, and the 4th unit is a mower/compact tractor for $11,082. Haug Kubota is given a very positive trade value allowance and is reflected in these prices. The current mowers are used frequently throughout the summer and winter months and are showing signs of mechanical issues and metal fatigue. Not mental fatigue, metal fatigue. Public Works Superintendent Mr. Lederborn noted that the CIP included an estimated $127,628 for the replacement of these units, and the trade-in values came in higher than we anticipated. After some discussion, again, a motion is made, seconded, and passed for the following. I will introduce the resolution to approve the purchase and replacement of these 4 Kubota mowers from Haug Kubota Implement in the amount of $72,695.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
Item number 8 had to do with the replacing the Welcome to Wilmer sign on the north end of Wilmer, the one that was damaged by a car. Staff presented information regarding the replacement of this sign on Highway 71 North. The original sign was demolished in an accident in May of 2014, and we received quotes for the replacement of the sign, with one quote received from Quick Signs of Wilmer. The quote details replacing the sign on the existing pad it was originally constructed. An option was brought up during the meeting of installing a full digital sign, as well as the option of updating the sign with a new logo. Staff recommended constructing the sign matching the ones we already have at the other entrances to Wilmer. And a new digital sign was quoted at nearly 3 times the cost of the signs that are in place presently. There was nothing budgeted for a full digital sign, and insurance will only cover the cost of the original sign that was there. A committee noted that it was too small to convert to digital on the existing pad. Again, after some discussion, a motion was made, seconded to pass the resolution, and I will introduce that resolution to approve the replacement of the Welcome to Wilmer sign on North Highway 71 to its original design.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think a digital sign would be appropriate out there. If you want one, I would say at the entrance of Robbins Island, but I agree with going with the same kind of sign that's the other entrances, so just my opinion.
That was theirs, too.
Okay. My question is, there's an All-America City 2005 sign out there as well? Was that your intent as well, to leave that there?
There was one there?
There is one there now.
If it didn't get damaged, I guess we...
It's not damaged. I don't think it's damaged, is it?
Mayor, members of the council, my understanding is that was not damaged and will remain in place.
Okay.
Yeah. It was not part of this motion, so it will remain there evidently.
Okay. Okay. Other discussion? Okay. Roll call.
Standard motion, sirs.
Standard motion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
It said resolution on mine.
It says it on mine too, that's why I called for a resolution, so. Is it because we're
Hey, are we
spending?
entering into a contract with it? We can go with the resolution.
Go ahead, let's do a resolution. I think I can call for that anyways, can't I?
Yes, you can.
Anytime.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly. 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Yeah, resolution passes.
Our last item, or second to last item was old business, information only. We discussed the continued efforts for stormwater control. Civic Center Drive Pond is scheduled for improvements this year, as was shared earlier, and will be cleaned out to make it more functional. The possibility of a subcommittee for new developments to focus on zero net increases in stormwater runoff was debated. Staff noted that zero increases and other design options are already being considered and reviewed on all new developments in the city limits. Staff also noted there's no discrimination between residential and commercial developments for stormwater prevention. Stormwater prevention policies in other states were discussed. A summary memo previously submitted by the interim city engineer at the bar report was requested for review. Item number 10, new business. There were no items under new business. So if there are no questions or comments, I will move to file the minutes as written.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to file the minutes. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, consideration of assessor agreement. Kevin?
Mayor Calvin, members of the council, we are working hard to hire a city assessor replacing our retiree, but due to the difficulty in hiring a qualified, accredited Minnesota assessor on that full-time basis, we are recommending that we contract with a senior accredited Minnesota assessor on a part-time basis. By doing this, we'll be in compliance with the state requirements to have that taken care of within 90 days. There's a resume in here of Stephen Barenbrinker. He contracts for $50 an hour. We're estimating that he can make a commitment to 3 office days per 2-week period. Plus, he's always available by phone and email to help out our staff. It is staff's recommendation that we approve a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city administrator to enter into this contract with Stephen Barenbrinker.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The agreement, I didn't read the whole thing in here, but is it ongoing, just as needed basis?
It's ongoing with a 14-day exit clause on either side.
Either party. And do we know how long we're going to need this agreement? Is it going to be for a year, 2 years, 5 years, or so we can hopefully get somebody to apply for lead assessor?
Our hope is 3 months, we're done. It's an ongoing ad, so there's no additional time to constantly advertise. If someone came our way, it'd be the interview process, and maybe it could be over in 2-3 months, but it could be a year.
I noticed that he's also doing this for quite a few other communities, has and presently has quite a few communities, and I wonder if they're going that route also, of just keeping him on, because he's been at several of these for years.
There's a large training issue throughout the state and a noticeable wave of retirees where I think there's a lot of counties and cities finding themselves in a position that we are. I guess overall failing to train from within. And so he's helping everybody out as he can.
So this may be a trend, I mean, for permanent.
Well, we will not get the job completely done with this part-time basis.
And the requirement, you mentioned 90 days in there, that we had to fill it within 90 days? Is that what the requirement was?
We have staff that are not AMA or SAMAs, Senior Accredited Minnesota Assessors, and they cannot work under their own license for more than 90 days, and so the county would have to step in and control them and take over the situation.
That brings up another question on the assessing department. How are we doing on the other part as far as anybody applying?
The opening for that job description has closed last Friday. We have over a half dozen applications, and we will be processing them this week.
So we have some hope. Okay. Once again, I would mention that with the lack of these senior assessing people, I'm sure that we're not the only city that would be thinking about merging or with the county. Other counties have done it with, Benson did it with Swift County, and Rick may know other counties did the same thing. I think we need to be looking at that, because if we don't get some applicants for replacing Miss Erickson, I don't know what we're going to do. It takes quite a while for someone from within to get up to that point and have those certifications or qualifications to do that job. And I think we have to be thinking about that, and I just bring it up again for information.
Any additional discussion? Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How did we make the selection of this individual? I thought we had a local applicant or a local person that might fit the bill. How did this come about?
We did not ultimately have a local person who was able to do the service and the hours as we needed to do so, and this individual contacted us, and Mr. Halliday and I, along with a member of the assessing staff, met with the individual and feel he's qualified to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Additional discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution passes. Next is accept a hazardous materials grant. Gary Hendrickson, Chief Hendrickson.
Mayor Calvin and members of council, the fire department hosts the Hazardous Emergency Assistance Team, which is a countywide resource that delivers emergency response to not only the city of Willmar, but also to the surrounding communities within the county. I made application to the Department of Public Safety, Division of Homeland Security, and Emergency Management for a hazardous materials grant. It's a hazardous materials emergency preparedness grant in the amount of $13,584 to conduct hazmat technician training for the city of Willmar, as well as the hazardous materials emergency assistant team members throughout the county. This does require a match by the city of $3,396, and we will be expending that out of our training dollars of the fire department in order to conduct this training.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the acceptance of a grant from Department of Public Safety, Homeland Security, and Emergency Management for hazardous materials training. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Tarkin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Resolution in support of funding for city streets. Our City Administrator Stevens.
Yes, the League of Minnesota Cities Board of Directors on February 19th adopted the resolution that demonstrated support for new and dedicated state funding for city street. The resolution follows a directive by the League of Minnesota Cities Governing Board to support an omnibus transportation funding bill that would provide additional dedicated state funding for city streets, including funding that can be used for non-MSA municipal state aid, city street maintenance, construction, and reconstruction. Of the 852 cities in Minnesota, only 147 cities, of which Willmar is one, do receive municipal state aid, and 84% of city streets are funded by property taxes and special assessments. And it's the League's intent to bring attention to the difficulties and the struggles that cities are having to maintain their infrastructure, and particularly street infrastructure, and how that city street infrastructure is also an important part of the state's transportation network. And so the cities are being asked to adopt the attached resolution, which is a non-binding resolution, but will demonstrate support for the League's efforts to work with the state on sustainable streets funding in the 2015 legislative session. And the League has been a good partner on a lot of transportation bills over the years, but has struggled to actually have city streets really be addressed, and city street funding and needs be addressed. And so it's a emphasis of the League for this legislative session.
Council, what would you like to do?
I'd move approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion, there's a second. Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the resolution. Discussion. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now this, I've got a number of questions. We're not suggesting any specific, there's no specific bills that we're endorsing or...
No, there are no specific bills that are being endorsed. It is the League's position that the League will only support bills that address a funding mechanism for city streets. But it's not, and that funding mechanism has not been determined or decided, but it is an attempt to get the state legislature to look at city streets and how they are funded in the funding formula for city streets.
And how does this jive with what the coalition might be doing?
The coalition is supporting the same legislation.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, without stating what their intent here as far as money for this, you know, maybe it's going to be a tax that we'd be opposed to. Why would we vote for this when not knowing how they're going to resolve an issue, or what are their suggestions? Is it a gas tax and then part of it go to the city, or is it, do they have any idea what it's going to be?
I think the belief is that as part of the omnibus transportation bill, when the state looks at how those dollars are going to be allocated, is to look at the MSA funding and look at how that funding can be better allocated to cities, whether it's a change in the funding formula or maybe allocating additional dollars to that, without saying specifically that it would be a gas tax increase or anything of that nature. But it is more geared toward trying to get the state legislature to actually put some emphasis and attention on local streets. I mean, we have struggled even to have the street improvement district as a funding tool for cities move forward in the state legislature. We have, you know, in the past 2 sessions, that has been something that has been left, I guess, for lack of a better term, kind of on the cutting room floor in omnibus transportation bills. And so it's really an intent to have cities not necessarily left out of transportation, and a rather bold position by the League.
Councilmember Christensen, if I could just say too, I was in and had a visit with the city administrator this afternoon and just kind of gave her what I felt were some parameters that needed to go with this, if we could support it. And I think at this point, it's just, I mean, I think we should give those ideas to her so she knows where we stand.
Again, we'd be supporting something that we don't know what they're going to do. I mean, we're just saying we support whatever they do.
We're supporting it
I
as a
read through
tool.
this. I mean, whereas, you know, it's stating all these facts, therefore it be resolved that City of Wilmer supports an omnibus transportation funding bill that provides additional dedicated state funding for city streets, including funding that can be used for non-MSA city street maintenance, construction, and reconstruction. But where does the money come from? I mean, we're just supporting an omnibus transportation bill?
It's supporting an omnibus transportation bill that would include funding for city streets, and it would include funding that's not necessarily dedicated to only MSA streets, that could be used on any street.
Councilmember, I'm sorry, were you done? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Then Anderson.
As the city administrator, I understand that no funding sources were suggested by this motion from the league, or?
At this time, there's not, the league has not, and the league board has not suggested a specific funding source at this time.
I mean, I used to do some lobbying for the Board of Public Defense, and my experience with legislators is if you want them to run with something, you know, that's going to cost money. If you give them some funding ideas,
The
they
league staff has begun to work with the Senate Transportation, with the transportation chairs on what those funding mechanisms might be, but there isn't a specific source. I mean, they're just beginning those conversations, but the intent really was, and the discussion that took place as part of the, within the league and the league board, was whether we would support transportation bills regardless of their emphasis on city streets, or we would support transportation bills only if they addressed city streets. In the past, the league's position has been to support omnibus transportation bills that have that don't necessarily specify anything for city streets, but may have highway dollars that benefit us in the larger context of Highway 23 and some of those types of projects or corridors of commerce. But city street needs haven't been addressed. Where counties have received some funding mechanisms in the past legislative session. Cities haven't been able to do that. Again, we've not been able to receive even enough support for street improvement districts, and so cities remain only able to fund city streets really with tax dollars and or special assessments. And so the intent was really to try to draw some greater attention, and as the legislature looks at an omnibus transportation bill, to look at how city streets are funded as well as a part of that.
No, I mean, we do have problems coming up with enough funds to, keep our streets where we'd like to have them. So anything we can do is great. I just was curious because, I mean, they do like to have funding ideas. And sometimes you give them a good idea, they'll implement it, but they'll give the money to somebody else.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I follow the legislature and watch this omnibus transportation bill, I think part of it also, some people are proposing using some of the budget surplus that we have, and I think they're also talking about increased efficiencies through MnDOT. So I suspect, again, we don't know how that's going to shake out at the end of the day, but it's probably going to be a combination of a number of different things. Hopefully, the gas tax will be very low on the priority list.
Roll call. Councilmember Plowman.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next is an update on the council retreat. City Administrator Stevens, if you want to open it up, and then I can take a couple comments after that.
Sure. We had, at the last council meeting, talked about a council retreat and beginning the process with some one-on-one interviews based upon some further feedback that Mayor Calvin and I have received. this time, we don't feel that it would be in the best interest and, the best effort to proceed with the retreat at this time. And so just wanted to inform the council that we will not be proceeding at this time with the retreat as we had previously discussed.
Okay, and the only thing I'd like to add to that is that I think what we've heard, or what I've heard loud and clear, is that we want a retreat. It's just that the timing isn't right. So we will be proceeding with the retreat, but just not on the schedule that I had outlined at the last meeting. So I would open it for discussion. Councilmember Nelson, then Anderson.
You sent out an email, I think it was a week ago Sunday, and I would think that it would be appropriate for the community that be public, and I would ask that you would address that. I know you didn't list council members' names in there, but there were some very specific items that were listed. I have a concern about when will be the appropriate time to have a retreat, and until we address some of these things that keep coming up, I think the community has a right to know what was said and who said it, and so that they have an understanding of why we are unable to do a retreat at this time. So I guess I'm asking for that email to be public and for the names to be listed in there that made the contacts and asked the questions.
Councilmember Anderson?
I'm hoping that, I'm always the eternal optimist. I think that we need this, and I think we need to do it soon. Do you have any thoughts in mind? Are we looking at summer, or what kind of timing are you thinking?
Yes, I am looking at this happening hopefully by summer. I don't want to put a time frame out there. I will be trying to have a couple meetings, and then I think that shortly after those meetings, I think that we would be in a position to move forward.
Okay, well, I will just echo again, it's important. We need to do this sooner rather than later.
Councilmember Nelson?
I guess I'm still just curious. The email was very loud and clear that council members were doing a variety of things, or questioning a variety of things regarding both you and Administrator Stevens. And, I guess I'm wondering what this council wants. We don't seem to have any sense of trust, and I think trust belongs to each of us at this table. And I think this community deserves more than that, and I think you stated that in that email also. And I'm uncomfortable with all of us sitting here quietly. This was something I think that needs to be done, and I just wonder where we're going. And I don't know what will be different this summer than it is now.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next, I'm going to say 2 months, the full council will not be here at many meetings, and that's one of the big reasons, besides the reasons that have been stated. We need the full council. We need all 8 members to come to this. There's one missing tonight. The next couple of meetings are going to be 2, possibly 3 missing. And so summer's going to be here after that, and I think we've got plenty of time to do it. We all agree that we should sit down and look at some strategic planning for our city to see where we're headed. But timing is important in everything. But let's have all 8 members here, and it won't be for a couple months. So that's a big reason to not be doing it right now.
Mayor Kelvin?
Councilmember Nelson?
That was not listed in the items that were there, and I think this community needs to know that. We agreed to this, and we agreed to move forward, and apparently the items that were discussed in there changed the course, and now we are facing people being gone. But we made a commitment before, and we agreed to it, and certain council people took us down a road that's derailed this retreat. And there will never be the right time unless we commit to it.
One thing that I've learned in the last month and a half is not to put timelines out there. I don't think you'll see me make that mistake again. I agree we need to get the retreat done, and I will be working diligently with the city administrator to make that happen. Council meeting dates. Finance.
Finance will meet Monday, the 9th, at 4:45.
Public Works, Public Safety.
The 10th at 4:45.
Labor.
Labor, I think, will be meeting March 25th, not next week, but in the 2 weeks from there.
Community Development.
Thursday, March 12th, I will not be there. Councilman Plowman will be officiating.
Okay. With that, anything else for the good of the order? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.